Today's video is all about redemption. Welcome everyone, welcome to my very humble channel. Now let's get into it. I was just doing some research and a Dr. Berg video popped up and he started talking about, it's called the dark side of intermittent fasting. And I was like, wait, what? You have been promoting fasting hardcore for years. In fact, people were complaining that he was looking thin because he was fasting so much. Same thing that I heard with Mike Mutzel, the last video I did about a guru fasting. In the middle of these trends, this is the warning. People will drink that Kool-Aid. They'll believe in that culty thinking that this person who's got so many followers, or there's an MD in front of his name, or it's a man. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but often these men who are doctors and they're not considering what happens to women who are fasting. And now there's all this like Mindy, I think Dr. Mindy P. These other people push it so much. And they're like, well, if you're a woman and you want to fast after your cycle. What are you talking about? I swear people make up science. They make no sense. But now I am redeemed because I'm going to show you a video of Dr. Eric Berg explaining the different stages, or not stages, the different ways you can frack up your body intermittent fasting. What? I was right. Let's get right on to Dr. Berg describing this intermittent fasting. And it's so, I'm like tripping watching him put out this video because he asked me years ago to be a part of a summit where it was only about intermittent fasting. And I said, I don't want to talk about intermittent fasting. And he said, okay, what do you want to talk about? I said electrolytes. And so that's what I did. It ended up being an online summit rather than an in-person because of Slovid. Yes. But let's listen to how I was right again after many years. Finally, these big names with a lot of followers and doctors, although he's a chiropractor, but I digress. They're finally saying what Steph's been saying for freaking years. So let's go right on to it.
Here's the thing you need to know about intermittent fasting. Okay. You're avoiding food for a period of time. And most of the things I'm going to talk about are not related necessarily to a 16 or 17 or 18-hour fast. I'm talking about when you do prolonged fasting. Let's say you're doing it for 48 hours, 72, or even longer. This information applies.
So he can't say that fasting is bad, period, because his whole business model has been built around fasting for a couple of years now. In fact, people were saying he had looked kind of thin with over fasting. So now he's cutting it back and saying prolonged fasting. Now, people have asked me, is fasting good in any type of way? And I say only if you're having an emergency like food poisoning, histamine response, an allergic reaction to something. Otherwise, there is no need to even do a short fast.
More to that situation. All right. So here's the thing. The purpose of food is to not just get fuel for your body. It's to get nutrients from the food.
Not that salad.
So if you are not
Amen.
eating because you're fasting, okay, you're restricting nutrients. And if your diet is not providing all the nutrients, okay, you can end
He just loves those salads. He cannot give that up. That has been his mantra from day one. And he's been around before I came into the internet sphere. And this is years and years and years ago. I don't even know how many years ago now, since 2010.
up with not just deficiencies, but what's called subclinical nutrition deficiencies. And that can set you up for a lot of problems. So virtually all the things I'm going to talk about are related to that one point. So let's first talk about the first one. It's called refeeding syndrome. So let's say you do this, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 day fast. Okay.
By the way, my stupid excuse me. By the way, my stupid computer is glitching again, so forgive the glitching and the Wi-Fi and all of that. But let's go and listen to some more on the dark side of fasting, Dr. Berg.
And then you eat this huge meal. Not a good idea, especially if you eat a carbohydrate meal and you have some type of pre existing nutritional deficiency, because this could be dangerous and you can have a lot of problems.
I think what he means is hypoglycemia, dysglycemia, hyperglycemia, any type of high insulin, high blood sugar, but people who crash a lot in the day are postprandial hypoglycemia.
It's always good and safe when you come off a fast to just have a little bit of food, wait for a couple hours, eat a little bit more. And I wouldn't do carbohydrates. I would do a little protein,
Yeah.
maybe an egg or a little bit of salad.
Take those nuts and burn them. Okay. Get a cross and some garlic and burn the nuts. Avocado, no salad, and egg, no. You can do ground beef, you can do egg yolks or avocado, or even just fat. But a fatty meat like pork belly or egg yolks is perfect in between meals to stabilize blood sugar.
Wait a little bit, maybe have some nuts, an avocado,
No,
things like that.
yes. Yeah.
But don't do what I did. I mean, I was just like, because I didn't eat for a long period of time, I overcompensated. I just ate a ton of food and I felt
Did you hear what he said? Don't do what I do. You guys are you getting it now? I'm so tired of people are like, "Oh my god, what's your education?" Lord have mercy. This man's got billions of followers, millions. And he pushed fasting for a very long time. And he's now admitting that he had some problems with it. Yes, because people develop eating disorders. No one talks about this because the fasting cult people are like, no, it's so amazing. It's so fantabulous.
really good for about a minute. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't feel too good. I feel really sick. My
Mhm,
body from not eating just wasn't used to that much food. So
mhm.
break your fast with a smaller meal and gradually come out of it. I will put a link down below for more details on that
Don't fast at all.
thing. But this refeeding syndrome problem usually occurs if, maybe you have a problem with anorexia or you're a chronic alcoholic.
No, here's where he's wrong. Like, I agree with some things, but no. I've been working with a ton of people. I don't just sit and I'm not online with the staff. I actually work with people almost every freaking day. Let me tell you right now, it's the diabetics, it is the dysglycemics, the hyperglycemics. These are the people, thyroid people, adrenal fatigue people. These are the ones that they literally feel wrecked, and their sleep becomes wrecked, and their dehydration uh, begins to increase, and their nutritional deficiencies explode with a weakened gut wall, fasting of all types.
Or you have some type of malabsorption issue where you don't get enough nutrition because you have inflammatory issues in your gut,
Yes.
or you're elderly, or you have advanced diabetes, or even you're on certain medications like antacids or diuretics that deplete you of certain nutrients, or you just basically have a low vitamin B1 deficiency. So that's when you start having problems with the refeeding syndrome, because we have this shift of fluid and electrolytes from inside the cell to the blood. All right, so that's number one. Number two, dirty keto, which is basically you're doing low carb, but you're not looking at the quality of the food. You're not trace minerals and B vitamins. But the point is, if you don't take these electrolytes, and I'm also talking about sea salt, and you're fasting, especially 2, 3, or 4, or 5 days, you might have issues like feeling faint, dizzy,
Mhm.
heard about people just passed out. And also when
That's hypoglycemia.
you're either on the ketogenic diet or you do intermittent fasting, you're running on ketones. Running on
No, not everybody runs on ketones, and this is where he's getting things. It's too broadly said. It's very difficult to get into ketosis. You have to manage your blood sugar, right? The blood sugar ranges. and the ketone ranges, excuse me, and the ketone ranges. I gotta put my phone on freaking mute doing these videos. You have to do, you have to measure and look at two camps, blood sugar, ketones, to understand where your body is at in terms of a homeostatic balance. And then you got to look at your symptomology. It's not just about ketones. And it's hard to make ketones in the right range with blood sugar.
Ketones increases the demand for certain nutrients like vitamin B1 and other B vitamins, and even potassium, which means you can also end up with something like keto fatigue or a keto rash or just
No,
weakness in
no.
general.
Keto rash is a candida, or it's either oxalate dumping or it's candida just literally dying off and exploding to the surface of your skin. So be careful. Be careful with some of these things he has on his list. That doesn't make any sense with fasting. No.
All right, number four, kidney stones. Kidney stones can occur for several reasons. The most common one is uric acid stones. And let's say, for example, you're doing in the ketogenic diet, you're doing intermittent fasting.
So let's talk about that. When you don't eat for hours at a time, right, the body goes under a certain type of stress. And not eating can raise your uric acid levels, especially if you're eating a lot of protein, which this is what people do. It is very rare that people emotionally eat high fat. They are so afraid of fat, they go for the protein. So people develop high uric acid levels. They become depleted in zinc, copper. Yeah, no, you don't develop high uric acid levels just because you do a ketogenic diet or fast. It is literally because you're having too much protein, you're overeating. All right, you guys, let's talk about what happens to the diet brain.
Not prolonged fasting. Number six, athletes that have not adapted to fat yet. Okay, so in this process of getting on keto, you start adapting to keto, which within like 3 days, but then it actually takes 1 to 3 months to fully adapt to your fat.
Wrong again. It can take 1 month to a year, and this depends on your cortisol pathways and the management of your blood sugar and your lifestyle.
Metabolism, right? So to be fat adapted, it takes a lot longer than what you might think. So in the process, and you're working out, you may not have adapted to fat. So when you exercise, you might kind of have energy and then kind of come down. But I will say over time, there are athletes that have adapted to this fat over a period of months. And man, they can burn fat 3 times better than.
Nonsense.
Number nine, if you have a loss of muscle, let's say, for example, you're older and you're starting to develop muscle loss and you're doing intermittent fasting.
It's weird how he picks out these groups of people. This applies to anyone. I did a video about gluconeogenesis. This is when you are dysglycemic, and most people are. Blood sugar is all over the place, right? They're not getting into ketosis. They don't eat enough fat. They eat too much protein. They can't get their stress down. They don't sleep enough, and so forth and so on. And when your body is constantly stressed out, it'll break down amino acids from skin, collagen, bone marrow to raise your blood sugar because you're not eating carbs. And this is not just old people, this is everybody. That's why you see athletes, long distance runners are thin, and sprinters are muscular because they stop running before their body starts to eat itself. And these people are young, typically. So remember, gluconeogenesis is about your body breaking down amino acids to raise the blood sugar, and this can happen to athletes or to average people or little kids or old people.
I recommend adding one additional nutrient, a blend of amino acids. That can actually give you this raw material.
No, no, you don't add amino acids. You just eat meat in the amounts that you're supposed to with fat, fatty meats, and a lot of fat to get into ketosis. Because remember, I explained to you guys that When you become insulin sensitive, the body does not have to break it down, doesn't have to break down amino acids to fuel the brain, which means less breaking down of muscle. So, yeah, no, 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 no.
without creating a problem of it turning into sugar,
No
but it can
protein.
actually supply the muscles to prevent a loss of muscle. And
You're going to lose muscle. I don't care how much protein that you eat if you're not insulin sensitive. There you go. Some things he said were spot on. He didn't talk a lot about gluconeogenesis, thyroid, adrenal issues, chronic fatigue, damage to your immune system. He didn't talk about any of that in terms of fasting. He's still pushing the salads, but he did make some good key points. And I just want to show you guys that I've been saying the same thing for friggin' years. People didn't believe me before when I said don't drink coffee, don't eat nuts, and don't eat cheese. And they literally raked me across the coals. There, you are so wrong. They put one of my videos on Reddit and they just demolished me. But I didn't change my voice. I stayed strong. These things can harm you. And all of a sudden, carnivore comes around and all these people have histamine issues, mast cell activation, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, leaky gut, fungal infections like nuts, cheese, all these things can make candida overgrow and create a dysbiotic gut. Now, nobody messes with me on those 3 food groups, but now it's the fasting. And before I said don't fast, it'll wreck you and frack you up. And now these gurus who are doing all this fasting are like, oh, I didn't feel so well. And now they're starting to change their tune. But he's pushing keto. He still thinks that keto is a great dietary lifestyle strategy to balance blood sugar. I do too. I can hear my donkey out there having a hissy attack. But I feel so redeemed, and I was right all along. And toot toot, I'm gonna do that because I've been raked on the internet for being so against these things like 1 meal a day and fasting and eating too much protein. And now you hear other people say it. If you guys want to learn more, go to stephanieperson.com. You can also book a consultation. I got your back. I've been doing this for too long with too many people, thousands over the years, and I learn from you guys, not from him. I learn from the people. If I would have learned from him, then potentially all these people would be having health problems with if I ever pushed fasting or long fast. I didn't push it, didn't want to push it. I knew it was dangerous, and so it's kind of redeeming to hear all of this now. You can also go to my Instagram, which is Stephanie Ketogenic, my Facebook fan page, which is Stephanie the Business Person. I'm 56, on my way to 57. Can't wait to touch 60, and I'm out. Because you know what? I'm getting my house built right now. Finally, I'm home.